Anna stood at the window, staring out at the dimming sky. The orange hues of the setting sun bled into the darkening clouds, matching the growing sense of uncertainty she felt in her heart. It had been a beautiful evening, calm, as it always had been when they were together. She could almost hear his voice, soft and reassuring, whispering promises that had once seemed unbreakable. But now, as the shadows stretched across the city, she couldn't ignore the nagging feeling deep in her chest. The smile he gave her that morning, the kiss that felt too distant, were they the same? Were they hiding something? Doubt began to creep in, a shadow lurking at the edges of her thoughts. "He's mine," she had said, convinced of their love. But something had shifted, something small yet undeniable. The questions that plagued her now weren't easily dismissed. Anna needed answers. And tonight, they would be found. Later that evening, as the sky darkened and the stars began to twinkle faintly in the sky, Anna found herself lost in thought once more. The dinner they had shared was supposed to be special, a quiet moment for the two of them to reconnect. But something had been off. Her partner, Tom, had been distracted, his attention drifting away whenever she tried to start a conversation. He had smiled, of course. He always did, but the warmth in his eyes wasn't quite the same. She had noticed it before, in fleeting moments, but tonight it felt undeniable. Was he hiding something? Anna couldn't bring herself to confront him yet, not after everything they had been through. The calm facade of their relationship was slowly beginning to crack, and with each passing minute, she couldn't help but wonder what was really going on behind Tom's smile. The following morning, the silence in their apartment was palpable. Anna sat at the kitchen table, sipping her coffee, her thoughts racing. Tom had left early, as he always did, leaving behind only the faint scent of his cologne. It wasn't like him to be so distant, to leave without a word. Anna stared at the empty chair across from her, wondering where the warmth of their connection had gone. Her mind replayed the subtle changes, the way he avoided her gaze last night, the way his voice lacked the usual tenderness. She tried to push the thoughts away, to convince herself that she was overthinking things. But the seed of doubt had been planted, and it was growing with each passing moment. As she reached for her phone, she found a message from Tom, apologizing for being absent and promising to make it up to her. His words were kind, but they felt hollow. Anna couldn't help but wonder, was he really being sincere, or was this just another act in a performance she no longer recognized? Later that day, Anna decided to visit Tom's office, hoping to surprise him with lunch. She'd been to his workplace many times before, but something felt different this time. As she walked into the building, the usual rush of energy and hurried footsteps seemed to fade into the background. The receptionist greeted her with a polite smile, but there was something off about her demeanor, almost like she knew something Anna didn't. Tom's office was on the top floor, and as Anna made her way up in the elevator, her mind raced with possibilities. What if there was someone else? What if Tom had been seeing someone on the side? She shook her head, trying to dismiss the thought, but the nagging doubt lingered. The elevator doors opened, and she stepped out, taking a deep breath before walking towards his office door. She paused for a moment before knocking, her heart racing in her chest. This could be the moment that changed everything. Anna knocked gently on the door, and after a brief moment, Tom's voice called out from inside, "Come in." As she entered, the first thing she noticed was the awkward tension in the room. Tom was sitting at his desk, his back to her, his focus on the screen in front of him. There was a sense of distance in his posture, a detachment that Anna hadn't seen before. She cleared her throat, and he turned around, offering a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "What's wrong?" Anna asked, trying to keep her voice steady. He hesitated before replying, "Nothing, just busy." But Anna could tell, it wasn't just work. The way he avoided her gaze, the way he quickly turned back to his computer, all of it felt wrong. She stood there for a moment, trying to read his expression, but it was as if a wall had gone up between them. "I'll let you get back to it," she said quietly, forcing a smile before turning to leave. As she walked out of the office, her heart sank. The pieces were starting to fall into place, and none of them seemed to add up. The next day, Anna couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. She tried to keep herself busy, focusing on her work and suppressing the anxiety gnawing at her from within. But her mind kept wandering back to Tom. He had seemed so distant last night, and today his texts were short and clipped, each message devoid of the warmth they once shared. She decided to visit him at work again, hoping that her intuition was wrong. But deep down, she knew it wasn't. As she walked into the building, the receptionist greeted her with an unreadable look. This time, the elevator ride felt even longer than before, each second stretching into eternity. When the doors finally opened, she walked toward Tom's office, determined to get answers. As she reached the door, she heard voices inside, a conversation she wasn't meant to overhear. She froze, her hand still hovering over the doorknob. The voice she heard wasn't Tom's. Anna's heart raced as she tried to make sense of what she had just heard. The voice inside wasn't Tom's, but the words were unmistakable. A woman's voice, soft yet assertive, followed by Tom's response, filled with an edge Anna hadn't heard before. Her stomach twisted, and she could feel the walls of the hallway close in around her. She leaned closer, straining to hear the conversation more clearly. "You can't keep doing this, Tom," the woman's voice said, laced with tension. "She's starting to notice. We need to be careful." Anna's breath caught in her throat. The betrayal, the lies, they were all real. Her worst fears were confirmed, and the truth was more painful than anything she could have imagined. Slowly, she backed away from the door, her mind spinning as she tried to process what she had just heard. The weight of the revelation crashed down on her, but one thought stood out above all else: she couldn't confront him yet. She wasn't ready for that. In the following days, Anna's world seemed to crumble around her. The conversation she overheard played on repeat in her mind, each word echoing louder and louder until she could no longer focus on anything else. She tried to keep it together, but her relationship with Tom felt like a fragile thread, ready to snap at any moment. At home, she became consumed by questions. Who was the woman? How long had this been going on? Tom's behavior had been slipping for weeks now, but she had turned a blind eye to the signs. Now, everything seemed so clear. She no longer trusted him, and every moment they spent together felt like a lie. She confronted him about his late nights at work, the vague excuses, the way he'd become distant. Tom seemed confused, even defensive, but he quickly apologized, claiming stress at work was the cause. It wasn't enough. It never would be. The doubt that had begun as a whisper was now a roar, and Anna couldn't ignore it any longer. Tom's apology felt empty to Anna, and she couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something more. Her thoughts became consumed by the possibility of infidelity, and it was all she could think about. One evening while he was at work, Anna decided to take matters into her own hands. She needed proof, something concrete that would confirm her suspicions once and for all. She scoured Tom's desk, his drawers, his personal items, anything she could get her hands on. Her fingers trembled as she rifled through the papers, searching for any clue that would point to the truth. And then, in the back of a drawer, she found it, a photograph. It was a picture of Tom and the woman from the office, smiling together at a beach. Anna's stomach turned as she stared at it. This was no casual affair. This was something much deeper, something that shattered everything she thought she knew about her relationship. The photograph felt like a slap in the face. The world around Anna seemed to spin as she sat down, staring at the image in disbelief. Every fiber of her being screamed at her to confront Tom, to demand the truth, but something held her back. She wasn't ready to lose him, not yet. But she couldn't keep living this lie. As the days passed, she withdrew more and more into herself, becoming distant and cold, her smile a mere mask to hide the heartbreak beneath. Tom continued to ask her what was wrong, but she couldn't bring herself to tell him. The anger, the hurt, the betrayal, they all swirled inside her, a storm that threatened to break free at any moment. But Anna knew that if she confronted him now, it would be the end of everything. She had to wait. She had to prepare herself for what was coming, because once the truth was out, there would be no going back. The silence between Anna and Tom had become suffocating. She couldn't keep pretending that everything was fine, not after what she had discovered. Every time she looked at him, The image of that photograph burned in her mind. How could he? How long had this been going on? Tom, oblivious to her internal storm, continued with his usual routine, but Anna couldn't pretend anymore. She needed answers, and she wasn't willing to let this slide any longer. After work that evening, Anna asked him to meet her in their living room. She could feel the tension building as she sat on the couch, her heart hammering in her chest. When he walked in, his usual smile faltered when he saw her serious expression. "Anna, what's going on?" he asked, concern flickering in his eyes. Anna didn't answer immediately. Instead, she reached for the photograph and placed it on the table between them. His face drained of color as he saw the picture, and for a moment, the room seemed to freeze. Tom's eyes flickered between Anna and the photograph, and for a long moment he said nothing. His usual composure faltered, his lips parted as though he was searching for words that would explain the unexplainable. "Anna, I can explain," he began, his voice barely above a whisper. But the apology in his tone only fueled the rage bubbling inside her. "Explain? How do you explain this?" Anna's voice cracked as she spoke, the pain and betrayal clear in her words. "Who is she, Tom? How long has this been happening?" Tom's hands trembled as he sat down beside her, but Anna couldn't look at him. Not anymore. The man she thought she knew had turned into someone she barely recognized. She's someone from work. "It started as a mistake," Tom said, his voice shaking. Anna's anger flared, her hand slamming onto the table in frustration. "A mistake? A mistake doesn't last this long, Tom." She stood up, unable to sit still anymore. "I need the truth, all of it, or I swear to God, I'll walk away right now." Tom lowered his head, his hands shaking as he admitted the truth. "It's been going on for months. I was stupid, and I didn't know how to stop it. But I swear it didn't mean anything to me. You're the one I love, Anna." His words felt empty to her, like hollow promises that no longer carried weight. The damage had already been done. She had heard it all before. Promises of change, apologies with no real substance. But this was different. She couldn't look at him the same way again. Every moment they'd shared felt like a lie. "I can't believe you," she whispered, the tears welling up in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. Instead, she turned away, retreating into the kitchen, away from him. Her mind raced, trying to piece together the months of doubt, the moments she had dismissed as nothing. But it all made sense now. The late nights, the secretive phone calls, she had known, deep down, she had always known. Anna sat at the kitchen table, her hands clasped together tightly in front of her. The sound of her own breathing felt too loud in the silence of the room. Tom had tried to apologize again, to explain, but nothing he said could undo the hurt. She had been living a lie, and now it was all laid bare in front of her. She thought of all the times they had laughed, all the plans they had made for the future, plans that now seemed like cruel jokes. Her phone buzzed, breaking her out of her thoughts. A message from a number she didn't recognize. Hesitant, she opened it, and her stomach dropped when she saw the message. It was from the woman in the photograph. "He'll never leave you, but don't think for a second that you're the only one. He's mine too." The words burned through her like acid. Anna's fingers shook as she set the phone down, the weight of the betrayal sinking deeper than ever before. She had been a fool to believe she could fix this. That night, Anna couldn't sleep. The image of the woman's message replayed in her mind over and over, each word a knife to her heart. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, unable to turn her mind off. Tom had fallen asleep beside her, but it was as if he were a stranger in the bed. The man she had loved, the man she thought she could trust, was no longer the person she shared her life with. Her thoughts turned to what came next. Could she forgive him? Could they ever return to what they once had? The answer was clear: no. She couldn't keep living in this lie. The betrayal was too deep, the trust too broken. As she lay there, a resolve began to form inside her. She would no longer be a victim of his lies. The next day she would confront him one last time, and whatever came after, she would be ready. The next morning, Anna couldn't shake the feeling that everything around her was falling apart. She tried to prepare herself for the confrontation, but nothing could have prepared her for what was about to unfold. Tom was sitting at the kitchen table, his eyes swollen from a night of restless sleep. His guilt was written all over him, but Anna knew she couldn't afford to let him off the hook so easily. She stood at the doorway, arms crossed, taking in the sight of him. "I don't want your apologies anymore, Tom," she said quietly, her voice firm. He looked up at her, his expression desperate, but she couldn't bring herself to care. "I want the truth. All of it." He opened his mouth to speak, but Anna held up a hand. "I already know. I heard you. I saw the photograph. But you still owe me an explanation." Her heart pounded in her chest, but she stood her ground. She needed closure, even if it meant facing the pain head-on. Tom's eyes filled with tears as he struggled to find the right words. "I'm sorry, Anna. I never meant for any of this to happen. It started as something small, something I didn't think would matter, but it grew into something I couldn't stop." He stood up from the table, his hands trembling. "She? Her name is Claire. I never thought it would go this far. I never thought it would hurt you this much." Anna remained silent, her arms still crossed, her gaze unyielding. "You're sorry?" she asked, her voice dripping with disbelief. "Is that supposed to fix this? I don't want your apologies. I want you to tell me why. Why her? Why behind my back?" The tears that had threatened to fall the night before now streamed down her face. She couldn't hold them back anymore. "Why didn't you just walk away before it got to this point?" Tom's face twisted in regret, but Anna could see the truth behind his eyes. He had already made his choice. Tom's shoulders slumped as he finally sat back down at the table, his face buried in his hands. "I didn't want to hurt you. I never wanted this," he muttered, his voice muffled by the weight of his guilt. "I don't know how it happened. It's like I got caught up in something I didn't know how to stop." Anna took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm inside her. She could feel the anger building again, but she needed to stay in control. "That's not an excuse, Tom. You knew exactly what you were doing. You knew exactly how it would hurt me." She paused, trying to steady herself. "I was always there for you. I always believed in us. And you just threw it all away." The pain was almost too much to bear, but she refused to let him see her break down. "I don't know if I can forgive you, Tom. I don't know if I even want to." Anna stood still, the weight of his words hanging in the air. She couldn't believe what she was hearing, but deep down she knew it was true. "I can't fix this, Tom," she whispered. "I can't pretend it didn't happen." She turned away, unable to stand the sight of him anymore. Her breath was shallow as she walked toward the door, her mind racing with questions she couldn't answer. Why had she stayed so long? Why had she trusted him when everything felt wrong? Her fingers tightened around the doorknob as she heard Tom call out to her. "Anna, please, don't leave like this." She didn't respond, but paused for a moment before stepping out the door. "I need time," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I need to figure out what I want, and right now it's not you." As the door closed behind her, she felt a sense of finality that both terrified and liberated her. Anna walked aimlessly down the street, her mind clouded with a mix of emotions. Anger, sadness, betrayal, it all collided in a whirlwind inside her. She had never imagined that her life would come to this, that the person she had trusted most would shatter everything they had built together. But now, there was no going back. She needed to find a way to heal, a way to move on from the lies and the pain. As she walked past the familiar sights of her neighborhood, nothing seemed the same. The world felt like it was turning upside down, and she wasn't sure where she belonged anymore. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, but she ignored it. It was Tom, not Juan. She didn't need to hear his voice again, not right now. She needed to be alone. As she sat down on a park bench, the tears she had been holding back finally began to fall. She didn't have all the answers yet, but she knew one thing for sure: she had to start over, no matter how difficult it would be. Days passed in a blur, and Anna found herself sinking deeper into the pit of despair. Tom's constant attempts to reach out went unanswered, his calls and texts piling up like a reminder of the life she was trying to leave behind. She couldn't bring herself to speak to him, not yet. The pain was still too raw, too fresh. The memories of their good times haunted her every waking moment, making the betrayal feel all the more bitter. She couldn't stop replaying the lies, the broken promises, the moments when she had trusted him without question. Now, she felt like she was drowning in it all. She spent her days in solitude, trying to distract herself with work, but the emptiness remained. She walked through the motions, going through each day, as though it were the same as the last. The silence in her apartment was deafening, and she longed for the days when she had felt truly happy. But now, that happiness seemed like a distant dream, one she could never reach again. Anna had always prided herself on being strong, but now she felt like she was barely holding it together. She tried to talk to her friends, to reach out, but it was as if her grief was too much to share. Every conversation felt like an effort, and she couldn't bear to explain what had happened. How could she, when she couldn't even fully understand it herself? One evening she found herself sitting alone at a bar, nursing a glass of wine. The world around her seemed so distant, so disconnected from her own pain. A man at the bar tried to make small talk, but Anna barely noticed him. She had nothing to say to anyone anymore. She had become a shell of the person she once was, and she hated it. The loneliness pressed in on her, making the room feel even more suffocating. She wanted to escape, to run from the thoughts that clung to her like a heavy cloak. But for the first time in a long while, she realized that she didn't know where she was running to. It wasn't until a few days later that Anna finally reached out to her closest friend Lucy. She had been avoiding her calls, but she knew she couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. Lucy had always been there for her, and this time, she would need her more than ever. The two of them sat in Anna's apartment, the silence between them thick and heavy. Anna had tried to explain what had happened, but the words didn't seem to make sense. "I feel like I'm losing myself, Lucy," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I don't know who I am anymore." Lucy reached out, taking her hand in hers. "You're still you, Anna. You're just going through something incredibly painful right now. It's okay to feel lost, but you won't stay lost forever. You have to let yourself heal, even if it means taking things one day at a time." Anna nodded, wiping away a tear. She didn't know if Lucy was right, but for the first time in days, she allowed herself to feel a flicker of hope. As the weeks passed, Anna began to slowly piece herself back together. She wasn't fully healed, she knew that, but the days of complete despair were starting to fade. Tom had continued to send messages, apologizing, pleading for a chance to talk. But Anna wasn't ready to face him yet. Instead, she spent more time with her friends, rediscovering the things that used to bring her joy. She started going for morning runs, finding solace in the rhythm of her footsteps and the quiet of the early hours. One day, while running through the park, she noticed the small things, the way the sun glinted off the leaves, the sound of birds in the trees, the feel of the cool air on her skin. She realized that, even though she had lost so much, the world was still full of beauty. For the first time in a long while, she felt a spark of hope. Maybe she wasn't completely lost after all. One evening, as Anna sat on her balcony, the city lights twinkling in the distance, she found herself thinking about Tom. The anger had faded, and now there was only a lingering sadness. She didn't miss him the way she used to, but the memories still had a hold on her. She wasn't sure what to do with them, how to move forward with them in her mind. The wind stirred the leaves of the nearby tree, and she took a deep breath, feeling the cool air fill her lungs. It was time to make peace with the past, to release the anger and sadness she had been carrying for so long. She couldn't change what had happened, but she could choose how to move forward. And as the evening stretched on, she made a silent promise to herself: she would be okay. She would find her way, one step at a time, and in time, she would heal. A week passed, and Anna's life began to regain a semblance of normalcy. She spent more time focusing on herself, her work, her hobbies, and the things that had once brought her joy. It wasn't easy, and there were still days when the weight of everything hit her like a tidal wave. But she had learned to carry the pain, to accept it as part of her story. It was during one of these quiet days that she received a call from Lucy. "Anna, I think you need to hear this," Lucy said, her voice shaking. Anna's heart skipped a beat. "What is it?" she asked, dreading the answer. Lucy explained that she had heard something that made her believe Tom was hiding something even more dangerous, something beyond the affair. A secret that could change everything Anna thought she knew. Lucy had found an old journal, one that Tom had kept hidden, and in it there were cryptic entries that made Anna question not only Tom's past but the future she had envisioned with him. Anna couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted. She had thought she was healing, moving on from the past, but now the revelations about Tom's hidden life felt like a storm had swept back into her heart. Lucy had described the journal entries as vague but unsettling. They seemed to suggest that Tom had been hiding a darker side to himself, one that was connected to people and situations Anna had never known. Anna had always trusted him, believed in him, but now she was left questioning everything. What was this secret? And how had Tom kept it hidden from her for so long? Her mind raced as she debated what to do next. Should she confront him again? Or was she just opening a can of worms that would only drag her deeper into a world she couldn't escape? The unease she had been pushing aside came rushing back with a vengeance. Anna knew she needed answers, but the cost of those answers might be more than she could bear. The next day, Anna couldn't wait any longer. She had to confront Tom. She wasn't sure how he would react, but the tension had become unbearable. She walked into his office, her heart pounding in her chest. Tom looked up at her, his usual smile fading when he saw the seriousness in her eyes. "Anna, what's going on?" he asked, his voice unsure. She didn't answer him right away. Instead, she placed the journal in front of him, its pages worn and frayed. "What is this, Tom?" she demanded. Tom's face went pale as he glanced at the journal, his body stiffening. He didn't speak for a moment, his eyes flickering with a mix of fear and guilt. "I never wanted you to find that," he stammered, his voice barely audible. "It's not what you think. It's just some old things from a time I wanted to forget." But Anna was done with his excuses. She had to know the truth. "I need to hear you say it, Tom. What is this really about?" Tom's eyes filled with a mixture of regret and sorrow as he finally spoke. "I should have told you sooner, Anna, but I was afraid of losing you." His voice trembled, and Anna could see the weight of his secret breaking through his defenses. "I was involved with dangerous people who don't forgive easily. The journal, it's a record of my past dealings. It's not something I ever wanted you to know about. It's not who I am now. But back then, I did things I'm not proud of. And they've come back to haunt me." Anna listened in stunned silence, the pieces of the puzzle falling into place. She had known there was something more to Tom than she had seen, but this was beyond anything she had imagined. His betrayal wasn't just an affair, it was part of a much darker web of secrets. Her heart twisted as she realized that the man she had loved was someone entirely different, someone dangerous. "How long, Tom?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. "How long have you been hiding this?" The room fell silent as Anna processed Tom's confession. Every word he spoke seemed to cut deeper into her soul, and she could feel the trust she had built crumbling into dust. "I don't know what to say," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "You lied to me about everything." Tom reached across the table, his hand shaking. "Anna, please, I'm sorry. I never wanted this to come between us. I thought I could protect you, keep you safe from the past, but I failed you." Anna pulled her hand back, her chest tightening with anger and sadness. She had loved him, truly loved him. And yet, everything she had believed about their life together was now a lie. She stood up slowly, the weight of the decision pressing down on her. "I can't be with you anymore, Tom. This isn't the life I want. I don't even know who you are anymore." She turned and walked away, leaving him behind, her heart breaking with every step. She had to let go, no matter how much it hurt. It had been weeks since Anna walked away from Tom, but the finality of her decision hadn't fully set in until now. She had spent the time rebuilding herself, focusing on healing, and reconnecting with the parts of her that had been lost in the wreckage of her past relationship. But as much as she had tried to move on, there were moments when Tom's memory would haunt her. One evening, while sitting alone in her apartment, Anna received a text from him. It was simple but powerful. "We need to talk." Her stomach churned, and a sense of dread flooded her veins. She hadn't wanted to see him, but a part of her knew that there was one last conversation they needed to have. She couldn't avoid the truth forever. With a deep breath, she gathered her resolve and replied, "Fine. Where?" The time for running was over. This would be the closure she had been avoiding. The meeting was set for the next afternoon. Anna arrived at the small cafe where they had agreed to meet, her hands cold despite the warmth of the day. She spotted Tom sitting at a corner table, his face as familiar as it was foreign now. He looked up when she entered, and their eyes met. An awkward, tense moment of silent recognition. Tom stood up, his movements hesitant. "Anna," he began, his voice cracking slightly. He looked the same as he always had, but there was something different in the way he carried himself. The arrogance had drained away, replaced by a humility Anna hadn't expected. She took a deep breath, forcing herself to look past the man he had been to the man he was trying to become. "I'm here for closure, Tom," she said, her voice steady. "I need to understand what happened. I need to know that you're not the same person anymore." Tom spoke slowly, as if choosing each word with care. "I've spent every day since you left trying to figure out where it all went wrong," he admitted, his eyes never leaving hers. "I hurt you and I've spent so much time regretting it. I was selfish, and I let fear control me. But I swear I've been working on changing. I've been seeing the therapist. I've been trying to understand why I did the things I did. And most of all, I'm sorry." Anna listened, her heart heavy. She wanted to feel something. Anger, relief, closure. But all she felt was a dull ache. She had hoped for this moment to bring clarity, but all it did was remind her of how far they had fallen. "Tom," she said softly, shaking her head, "I'm glad you're trying to better yourself. But you lost me the moment you chose her over me. I can't go back. I don't even know who you are anymore." She paused, her voice breaking, but she pressed on. "I can't live in a relationship where trust is broken beyond repair." Tom's shoulders slumped, the weight of her words sinking in. He sat back down, his gaze on the table, his fingers trembling slightly. "I didn't want to lose you," he whispered. "I thought I could keep everything together, hurry you my life. I didn't realize how much I was hurting you." Anna could feel the years of love, anger, and pain washing over her, but there was a deep, unspoken understanding between them now. "You can't have both, Tom," she said quietly. "You can't keep someone and treat them like they're disposable. I was never second to her." She looked at him, and for the first time, she saw the man he had become. Broken, but not beyond redemption. "I have to let go, Tom, for both of us." The decision, though painful, felt right. She had waited too long to find peace, and now she had to walk away, not for him, but for herself. As Anna walked away from the cafe, she felt a sense of finality that she hadn't expected. The air outside was crisp, the city bustling around her, but everything felt quieter now. She had walked into the cafe hoping for closure, for some form of redemption, but what she had found was the peace of letting go. She didn't need to know the details anymore. She didn't need to keep reliving the past. What mattered now was the future, and for the first time in a long time, she felt a glimmer of hope. Her heart still hurt, but it was a pain she could live with. She was stronger than before, more aware of her worth. Anna took a deep breath, feeling the weight lift from her shoulders as she walked into the busy street, the sounds of the city filling her ears. She was free, and that was all that mattered.